Thank you for finding us again. No stoplights. I want to thank our sponsors, Pepsi of Florence, Carolina Bank, Micky Finn's, MPD Electric Co-op, Francis Marion University, McLeod Health, McCall Farms, Victor's PLC, Commercial Real Estate. That's kind of an appropriate list of sponsors as we steered a lot of these podcasts away from politics on purpose. Now, I'm not denying that some are very political, some are very national. We talked a lot about Trump and Biden. We've talked a lot about immigration. I mean, that's whether you choose to be political or not, you are. If you drive on a highway, taxpayers paid for it. If you walk into a building, odds are, the government had something to do with that building. So to suggest that we're going to be apolitical every day, 24/7 is disingenuous. So we're not doing that. But when I look at the sponsors and I think about this podcast, the two most recent we've done, one we did with Ben Ziegler, an attorney here in town, who's kind of a self-taught historian, a resident historian, if you will. We did a lot of work on Francis Marion, General Marion, his role in the Revolutionary War. Ben and I have agreed we're going to do a series called Road to the Revolution, some of the colonist days, how we got there, some of the thought leaders, Jefferson Adams in particular, what they were doing while Marion was doing his thing in the swamps of the PD, hence the name Swamp Fox. But and then we had Councilman William Schofield, just got elected chairman of county council with us in the last podcast. So we're trying to make sure we honor the commitment we made to these sponsors that this was going to be very local. We're going to pay a lot of attention to our local economy, our local politics, our local culture. And when I heard news on Facebook, and I'm not going to misrepresent, this guy's not a big friend of mine, but he and I are acquaintances. We have a lot of mutual friends, but I've known Joe a long time. And I decided, okay, if we're going to talk about our community and if we're going to highlight and accentuate some of the movers and shakers of our community, why not somebody who started a business over 40 years ago, and I got to believe had a lot of ebbs and flows and gyrations and good times and bad times. But back to the Facebook post I read toward the end of last week that Salty's Joe Waters was going to sell Salties and move along. I guess he'll tell you, catch a better wave one of these days. And I asked Joe to sit down with us and kind of walk through the life of a business owner in this community, the life of owning a business in this community. Joe has been at it for over 40 years. Some know the history, some don't know the history. But I remember, and I want to begin the conversation, Joe, if you don't mind, by saying that when someone opened a barbecue place in Florence County, okay, that makes sense. When somebody opened a muffler shop, okay, that makes sense. When somebody opened a tire shop, I'm going, okay, I get it. Hamburger joint, I get it. And I remember one of these days, many, many years ago, in the old Florence Mall, I'm strolling along, and there's Salty's surf shop, and I'm going, that guy's lost his mind. I mean, there's no way you can make a living in a surf shop, not in Garden City, not at Ocean Isle, not at Pawleys Island, but rather Florence, South Carolina. To begin with, welcome. Good to have you, Joe.
Hey.
So let's start there. When I made the assumption that you would fail sooner than later, because there's no way anybody can make a go of it at a surf shop in the good old PD region of South Carolina, what made you believe that you could?
As soon as I got out of college, I went down to Garden City and I was selling real estate, but I was in a bad downturn at the time. And I was like, whoa, I got to do something else because this just is not working out because it's so slow. And I was noticing surf shops popping up. And I don't know if anybody remembers the old OD surf shop from way back, but I watched that, and it's a big, nice surf shop, and it was just packed. Everybody was just going in there. It was going crazy in there. And I was like, okay, man, I'm a surfer, and how do I get involved in this? And I was at Ocean Isle at the time. Well, I was at Garden City. My dad had a beach house at Ocean Isle called the Salty Waters. That was the name of the beach house. And I was asking my mom, I was like, what's a good name for this? She goes, well, how about Salties? And I was like, okay. And I thought about it, and I finally decided, okay, that's it. So we opened up a shop at Ocean Isle, a little tiny, small shop. I brought in surfboards and Quicksilver board shorts, and we we were doing small numbers, but we were managed to stay afloat. And after 2 years of that, I was like, I was just noticing surf shops were just going crazy. So I was like, okay, let's give it a shot in Florence. It's my hometown. So I went there and we started over there inside the Florence Mall. And Jamie Harris was my first employee, as a matter of fact. He was helping me. And so anyway, we opened up right there in that little breezeway and across from Carrie Nations. And skateboards have just started hitting it big right then. I mean, skateboards with the Tony Hawks and all that, man, everybody was just going absolutely crazy. And so we got a lot of traffic from skateboards and other people who own businesses in the Florence Mall. They could not believe the traffic that Little Salties was getting at the time. And they were just shaking their heads. They couldn't believe it, And so then we moved around the corner and got a larger store. And then through the years, we moved outside to the mall, outside over on the corner where the Steinmart used to have their shipping coming in. And then we moved to the right where the children's store used to be. So we moved 4 times in that building right there. But, we had our good times, we had our bad times, but we were managed to keep it together.
Okay, when did you make the decision to go build a building? Because I'm thinking to myself, he doesn't sell barbecue. He's not putting mufflers on, but it's something going to stay in business some way, somehow. Once again, not in Garden City, not at Ocean Isle, but in Florence, South Carolina. When did you believe that it was worth trying to really, and I'm talking about, I know you were in business there, but you went out and borrowed money, I got to believe, and bought a building, piece of land, built a big kind of a complex there. When did you decide to do that, and what made you believe that was the right time to do it?
Well, I was at the Florence Mall, and those guys were not easy to deal with at all. I mean, and they were going to raise my rent for like $1,000 or $2,000. I was like, whoa. So my wife, actually, Connie, she spotted, it's the Southern Woods of Gibbs building. That's what it was. She spotted it, and she said, what do you think about it? I was like, well, let me see what I can do, So I made some phone calls. Luckily, I got a hold of some really good people. Keith Buckhouse, if you want to name a name. And Keith, he helped me out so much. I mean, I couldn't have done it without him. I would not have got that building without Keith Buckhouse, just to let you know that. And so he's the one who helped me out. And my brother-in-law, Jim Lyles, he also helped me. So those two is the one who put it all together for me to get that building. And then we moved everything over there. And that, being in this business right here is tough. So you got to have something at the end of your story to help pay off at the very end. And that's like the gold at the end of the rainbow. So
owning the building, owning the land.
Yes,
I mean, that empowers the owner.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something like you said, everything can fail, but that's mine. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
mine at the banks to begin with, and eventually it becomes yours. Okay, I got a weird question for you.
Okay.
You're a surfer. I'm not.
Yeah.
When I go in Salties, do you know who the real surfers are and who the phonies are?
Yeah, it's easy to spot.
So tell me why. When I walk in there, when somebody walks in who's a surfer, how do you know they are genuinely interested in that? And how do you know? I mean, people like me would say, wow, I mean, that's kind of popular right now, so I want to be a Paola Kai flip-flops would be something that comes to mind. I mean, I go to your place and get my flip-flops and things like that for the summer. But Joe, how do you know? How does a fellow surfer know when somebody comes in the building, they're actually kind of a diehard surfer?
Clothing, what they wear, like whether they have a surf T-shirt on, they would generally have a pair of shorts on, which is not tight, not loose, kind of in between, right to the knees, I guess you'd say, with a surf T-shirt on. The hair would be a little shabby, and just a real laid-back type character,
And that's who you were? Is that fair to say in your youth? I mean, you talked about being a surfer. You impressed me to be the kind of, not a real formal guy. Not a real dressed up guy. So, I mean, was it a labor of love or was it genuinely something you knew you had to make work to pay your bills? Yeah,
I'd say more or less something, my dad, this is my dad who owned Waters Funeral Home, and he worked his butt off. And so when I got out of college, he he wanted to make sure I had a job and I was working immediately. He'd bust in my door at 5 a.m. Joe, get your butt out of bed, go find you a job. So, and I said, okay, I got, he lit a fire in me. I had to do something. Went and sold real estate. That didn't quite work out. So I did this. And, I want to make him proud because he did, he worked very hard.
Worked hard to put you where you are, to give you a leg up, such as my dad did. And a lot of us have that similar story. Yeah. So, the products that you carry, the products that you've carried over the years, how many you get right and how many get wrong? When you get something in there and you say, man, I think this will sell, and it doesn't. Yeah, man, I'm not sure this will sell, and it does. Yeah. Is it a science? Is it a hunch? Is it a gut instinct?
Man, you're right on. The product means everything. It really does. So, some of them you get wrong. Generally, the ones.
Give me an example of something you got wrong.
Golly, let me think. Something.
Probably
bad.
rather talk about something you got right.
God, I gotta think of something bad. Let me think. Okay, I got one for you. Kickwear, a karate surf line.
A karate surf line.
A karate surf line.
What made you think that might fly?
I was just trying to help a friend out. He said, and actually John Taylor, he's actually from this town, and he used to work for me at Ocean Isle too, and he got some jobs repping by working at my store, and he had this line named Kickwear. He says it's the brand new thing. You got to go for it because it's banging. He says. So I was like,
it's banging.
Yeah, I was like, okay, let's bring it in. Let's give it a shot. And that was a total dud. So
on the other end of the spectrum, what has been a memorable bestseller?
Well, I can just tell you this. When I first got started in 1983 at Ocean Isle, I could not have made it without Quicksilver. I can tell you that. Because as soon as I got in there, and these other guys were trying to put me out of business from the get-go. So they marked everything half price the whole summer. And I was like, whoa. So anyway, and they had a better location than I did. So to get people in my store, luckily I had Quicksilver. You familiar with Quicksilver?
Sure, yeah. Been around a long time.
Yeah. That company got me. It wasn't for those guys, I would not be here. There's no doubt about it. So
how many fashions, how many changes have you seen in what I'll call surf wear? Mm. I go to the beach a lot. You and I were talking before the podcast. I go to the beach a lot, and I catch myself wearing I think it's Village surf shop in Garden City.
Yeah.
As I was a kid, I wanted to be that. I wanted to go there. All the girls were there. All the cool stuff was there.
I know
so I would
guys.
buy. Okay. So, is it a way of life? Is it a reflection of your personality?
It's an addiction. There's no doubt about it.
Explain that. It's an addiction.
I just saw a post yesterday about surfing is similar to heroin. Yeah, that's what it talked about. And it is, man. It's just, I don't know. It's something you do. And, okay, the thing about the East Coast, you don't get a lot of waves here, okay? So
why is that, Joe? You're a surfer. Why don't we get the waves on the East Coast they do on the West?
Well, if you think about the way the world turns, so you have all the storms come from west to east. So they come into California, and they got to cross all the way over, and then they head out to sea. So France, Spain, Puerto Rico is getting the storm systems that come off of us. We get the wind, and then when the wind switches, so we get what you call a wind swell, because the winds build, and then you have the front that comes over, and then the wind switch offshore, so you have that 1 day of getting waves. Well, these guys get 5 and 6 days of waves. So, and so you really, you really got to work hard as the East Coast surfer to catch that wave, and it turns into, hey, you really want it bad. You know what I mean? That's one thing about it. East Coast surfers want it worse than anybody else.
Because you don't get it as often.
Exactly.
You got to work harder to get it.
Yeah, you got Kelly Slater, 11-time world champion out of Florida. stuff like that.
So I'm a football junkie.
Okay.
Lambeau Field would be, on my bucket list. I want to go to Lambeau, and I hope it's cold when I go. And I want to watch the Packers play the Bears or the Packers play the Cowboys.
Yeah.
What is Lambeau Field for you as a surfer?
Bali and Hawaii.
Have you been there?
Yes.
Was it everything you thought it would be?
More so. I mean,
explain that, Joe.
Well, it's a really long story, but my daughter was over there and she was struggling because she went. It's a long story, 2 months ago. So I flew all the way over there to be with my daughter.
What daddies do?
Yeah, and I always said I want to go to Bali before I die. That's my goal in life, because the waves, they're absolutely perfect. I mean, you got these waves coming in, and they hit these reefs, and they peel off. I mean, it's if you just watch a wave, it's mesmerizing how perfect these waves are. And so, but you get over there, the dollar is so strong over there compared to the dollar over there. I mean, you cruise around like you're a millionaire, man. It's like, I've never experienced this in my life. I said, I'll take 10 of those. I'll take 5, like happy hour. How much is that? $1? Okay, I'll take 10. And we got all these people here, and the food, like best food you ever ate in your life, it's like, $3 versus here you pay $20 or $25. I remember one time we went, they had fishing boats come and land on the beach, and you got tables out there, and they take the fish, they clean it in front of you and cook it right in front of you on this little table right there. I fed like 5 or 6, like $50, $45. I mean, and we stayed in a place. It was like little huts, really nice little huts, and $28 a night, probably around here to be $350 or $400. I mean, so you just cruise around and you're going, oh, this is the best part. An hour massage, $10. $10 for hour massage.
Be over 100 here.
Yeah, and they knew my daughter by name, Adrian. What would you like, Adrian?
So why do you believe? Because you'd be a good guy to ask this. Why are we so entranced with the ocean? Why is it that human beings are drawn to water? I mean, you're talking about some of these places along the East Coast. I mean, maybe the waves aren't as big, but the lots are expensive.
Yeah.
And the cost of living is gone crazy. You've seen it. I've seen it. I mean, I remember when houses were reasonable and it wasn't that crowded. All of a sudden, why do you think people are so infatuated with living near the ocean?
That's another thing. I looked online, like on Instagram or something, and it talks about when you look at water, any body of water there is, immediately your blood pressure drops, and you relax. It's something about the water just staring out there. Now, this is funny too. My dad, this is back in the day, he goes, Joe, either you're surfing or staring out there, just looking at the waves. He said, isn't there something else to do besides that? And I'm like, I don't know. I guess this is what I like to do.
But you were always drawn to that. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. We've, my friend, I don't know if you remember, Tag Gandy? You familiar with Tag?
Heard the name.
And Buddy.
Yeah.
And Took, that's his dad, Took Gandy. They had 2 houses at Garden City. And we were best friends, and he'd invite me down there. That's where I started surfing. And we get on the boat, do all the stuff through the sloughs and stuff like that, have the time of our lives. And it's just a fantastic time. And he's the one that got me into it.
Could you have been as successful at Salty's if you didn't love surfing the ocean the way you do? I mean, if it were strictly a business, because you're convincing me that you went to work, and you had to keep a business afloat, but you were drawn to that sort of work. I mean, it was the latest, greatest surf gear was not only a job to you, it was a lot of fun to you.
Yeah, well, the day-to-day activities. I mean, you just look forward to those times where you can get off and go surfing, So work is work, surfing. And
was that hard to separate?
Being on the East Coast, not so much, because the waves, you wait for them all the time, so you're constantly waiting. So you can put all that on the back burner and just work. You know what I mean? And knowing, I guess one of the things that's good is knowing, when the sun and moon and stars are right, and you look over here like Puerto Rico, and it's going to be good. You can look online. You can get on your phone and find out when the waves are going to be best. You can fly over there and surf for 5 days knowing it's going to be good, And so back in the old days, you didn't do that. But nowadays, you can actually time it. So,
why do crazy people on the East Coast surf in hurricanes? Are you one of those crazy people that have surfed in hurricanes?
Yeah, definitely.
We think you're nuts when you do that, but why? I mean, is it the exhilaration of having the waves you normally don't have?
Yeah. That is the epic. That's when the waves come in and they're the best. Now, you got a lot going on, so you got swell and wind, swell direction, and all of this. So everything's got to mix together to produce that perfect wave, but that is the best time.
But you've kind of got an angry ocean, don't you, Joe? I mean, but there's some danger there that normally doesn't exist.
There is some danger
You ever had the crap scared out of you during a storm surfing?
Oh, yeah. I've had, the most scared I've ever been was in Hawaii. Probably I went out, my daughters lived out there for 5 years, so they just moved to California like 2 years ago. But like 5 years ago, I looked at the waves. I was like, it's a little big. I think I'm going to be okay, though. So I paddle out there, and I'm just paddling out. Next thing you know, a wave just lands on top of me and pushes me to the bottom of the reef, and I'm like held down on the reef, at the time. And I'm like, wow, I'm over my head, I got to get in. But I did manage to catch one wave. You don't want to do the paddle of shame. The paddle of shame is where you go out, you realize it's too big or too scary, and you paddle back in. So I managed to get my one wave and paddle in. But East Coast, this wasn't that long ago. I was on, it's like a huge northeaster. This is like last year, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna paddle out and catch one wave. It's super choppy, And I get out there, and all of a sudden a wave breaks in front of me, and next thing I know, I was right in front of the pier, and it washed me right into the pier there. So that really freaked me out. So,
okay, so you've run.
I got one more story though.
Sure.
This is last year at Masonboro. I don't know if you ever. It's in between Carolina Beach and Wrightsville Beach. So, and you got to generally take a boat over there, but my friend decided he didn't want to go. So I said, I'm just going to paddle across. And so it's about a 10-minute paddle across there. I have experienced a shark there one time, like a big shark. And I said I wasn't going to paddle ever again. But so I got over there, and my other friend just broke his neck. It was like big. And I had a sales rep broke his neck over there earlier in the day. So I was out there. I knew he broke it, but he's okay. He's not paralyzed. He's already back surfing. Everything's good. He's a good friend of mine. And it was big, and I was just trying to catch the corners, I didn't want to get the big one like that, so just being very careful and stuff, especially, at my age, I don't want to break my neck.
Okay, and your age is the reason that you think it's time to do something else.
Yes, definitely.
How has running Salties changed? I got to believe when you started, there weren't as many big boxes. There was not online shopping. There weren't people coming into your store to check out what your price is and then go online and buy it from some land far, far away. Mm-hmm. I've always tried to be loyal to local business. Yeah. But how have you seen, is it harder? Is it easier? What's harder about it? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it through the years as these other competitive forces come into play?
Yeah, it's all about, you've got to get your product mix, okay? If you don't have your product mix, you can pretty much forget it. You're going to be out of business soon, more sooner than later. So you got to get your product mix, and getting your product mix is tough because you're dealing with other stores, say Schofield's Natural Outdoors, Palmetto Moon in the mall, Palmetto Outpost. Everybody's got
their thing.
Now, a lot of you mix a lot of stuff. Seems like everybody wants my stuff, okay? For some reason, I come to town, and everybody wants Salty's stuff. So they're able to get my stuff. But I try to get their stuff. Negative. Especially Palmetto Moon, those guys over there. I had one line. They told those guys, if you sell to Salties, if you continue to sell to Salties, basically, we're not ordering anything from you. You got 18, 20 stores, so they just totally pulled our line. But you got to have, right now, the big ones would be Birkenstock, and number 2 would be Chubby's and Hey Dude, 1, 2, 3, and Olakai and Reef, Rainbow, everything else. But you got to have that mix to get, to attract the young people. It's all about people in school. So elementary school all the way through college, and then the mothers. Forget the guys.
Who do you listen to, Joe? You're in your 60s. Mm-hmm. You may not know what a 20-year-old wants. Who do you listen to? How do you know what to have as a product line so the 20 or 22 or 23-year-old wants it?
Yeah, I remember, back in the day when Pal Moon came to town, I was, I thought I had a good product mix, and, we were doing very well. And then they came to town. As soon as they got to town, I don't know if the upstarted the Southern clothing lines. Have you heard of those guys?
Sure.
Like, say, let's see, what was the big one?
Southern Tide?
Southern Tide, that's the big one, yeah. So they came to town, and everybody wanted Southern Tide. And I could not get that because they already had that.
But you knew you needed to have it. You knew there was a demand for it.
I had to have something because I knew the Southern. That's when I said, I got to get into the Southern clothing thing. A surf shop, getting into Southern clothing, I'm probably one of the few ones that's done that, no doubt. But I knew I had to do it because, they were just kicking my butt, man, So that's when I didn't have the Southern Tide, but I had Southern Point, Coastal Cotton, Southern Marsh. I had several other lines. It's very close, It's so close that just as good a lines. They just didn't have the Southern Tide name, but people love these lines. So that's what kept, you just got to keep abreast of what the kids want, And you go to shows help you. You go to shows and you see what's happening. Or you can go to California, take a trip out to California. Or what are they wearing out there?
I've heard that if California, in your line of work, if they're wearing it in California, a year from now they'll be wearing it in South Carolina. Is that kind of the case?
So not the Southern clothing line. That's specific to us, but yeah, you're exactly right.
So when did the flip-flop become a fashion statement? When I was young, the surfers and the hippies wore flip-flops.
Yeah.
And my dad said, don't wear them damn flip-flops. You're not a surfer and you're not a hippie. Mm-hmm. When did it become acceptable for all of us to wear flip-flops?
Well, that's, that has been Salty's thing, no doubt, since probably, God, when did I get the rainbow? When the rainbow hit, I cannot remember the exact year that was. That's probably 1988 or something like that, or 89, right around there. But when that hit, and people just love the rainbows, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. So I got to capitalize on this, And that's when if you go in the store, you realize, man,
there's flip-flops everywhere. There's flip-flops everywhere.
It's flip-flop heaven. And that's where I've made my money, able to pay the bills through the rainbow. I got a funny story about the rainbow. This is funny. Okay, so this is when it was huge. I mean, you pre-book. So are you familiar with pre-booking? The name pre-book. So you pre-book your orders. I got a shipment coming in March, got a shipment coming in May, got a shipment coming in July, 3 shipments. And so I ran out. So I know the guy who owns the Rainbow. It's an international business. He still answers the phone. To this day, this guy answers his phone.
Wow.
His name's Sparky. So, and he answered the phone. I said, Sparky, I'm out of rainbows, man. Can I get an order in? He goes, I don't know what you're doing down there, man. You obviously don't know what you're doing. You need to get somebody who knows how to run a business, because if you did, you had these things pre-booked. I was like, Sparky, I do have them pre-booked. He goes, well, obviously you don't have pre-booked enough. I don't know what to tell you, man. He just hangs up on me. I was like, man, okay, this is crazy. So I called back. Disguised my voice. I said, give me the shipping department. He says, okay. He says, John is shipping. I say, this is Joe over at Salty's, John. I tell you what, you ship me some rainbows today, I'm going to send you 5 T-shirts. What's your favorite brand? And so anyway, I was getting rainbows. I was shipping them T-shirts. Everything was cool. And then Sparky found out about it. And man, he was so angry. He said, I cannot talk to Joe. If I talk to him, So he had a secretary call me, and I was like, "Yeah, he's right. He's right. I did do that." And but anyway, he didn't nix me or anything. So I was lucky to be able to keep the line.
Is Olakai kind of the high end of flip flops? Why do you think they've done so well?
That's a whole nother story right there. So I was wearing the rainbows, and I sat on my feet all day, like 10 hours a day, and my feet were just absolutely killing me. And I was like, whoa, I need a flip flop that really more of an orthopedic type flip flop, to really help me out. So I started wearing the Birkenstocks for a while, but I'm more of a surfer guy, so I like the flip flop. And also I went to a trade show, and I was walking around, and I saw this leather flip flop that looked like with the orthopedic bottom. I was like, that is what I've been looking for. So I've been wearing them ever since. I do love them, and so I can go home. I can stand on my feet all day. Go home, my feet don't hurt, but that is definitely a game changer for sure. And those guys, that was one thing that was missing in the marketplace. They filled a void.
What was missing? A high end flip flop?
Yeah, high end flip flop. Yeah, because that's another $20 or $30 above the rest of them. But
people love them.
People love them. Yes.
Joe, why do you believe the community's been so good to Salties? I mean, you're talking about how hard you worked to get it established, the chances you took, moving around in the mall, went up on the lease. Yeah. I mean, that's the story of small business. You know that. Yeah, I mean, you've got a lot of small business friends, as I do. I mean, I told somebody earlier, you can write it all on a sheet of paper. It doesn't apply. I mean, the world gets in the way. Things don't ever go as planned. Why do you think this community over the last 40 years has been good to Joe Waters and Salties?
I think it is the product. It's the product mix. I mean, if you don't have what the people want, they're not coming in. They'll come in and say hello to you, but they're not going to buy anything. So you got to have what the kids want. So you constantly got to evolve. If you don't evolve, you're and plus, I guess another thing is you got, the owner needs to be, it's a tough business, so the owner's got to be there to see what's going on, and he's got to hear what the customers say to you so you can have an idea. Joe, why don't you have this? Joe, I want you to have, I need to look into that. So, and the customer's always right.
Is it frustrating online shopping, the impersonal? I mean, you've always impressed me. The times I've gone in there and you've been there, we struck up a conversation. I don't like to buy online because it's impersonal.
Yeah.
There's no relationship there. You built your business, I think you're telling me, on relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The online thing.
I mean, it's real, it. I mean, I see the data. I mean, people are shopping online like crazy, and they're hurting small business as a result of it.
When the COVID hit, though, people decided they got to get out the house. So I think more people started going into stores when the COVID hit,
How hard was it to run your business during COVID? I mean, that's a different world. That was like an alien experience that we all lived through.
I thought it was it for Salties. I said, Connie, this is it.
We ain't going to make it through this one.
It's over with. Let's go ahead and make plans. And next thing I knew, and I didn't want to close. I wasn't going to close, but my managers, they said, okay, if you keep it open, we're quitting, is what they told me. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to shut it down and we shut it down only 2 weeks, And then we started doing the pickup, the front door pickup or whatever, or people buy it online, you take it out to them and hand it to them. Did that, and then we opened back up. Next thing I knew, it was just gangbusters. I was like, whoa, what is going on here? And it was just wild, man.
So you've decided to hang it up. Mm. You decided to move on and do something else.
Yeah.
I mean, what happens to Salties? It seems that people have gotten so accustomed to you being there, and if you're not there, it's not going to be the same.
Yeah.
But nothing's forever. Mm. I mean, I'm not, you're not, nobody is. What motivated you to say now is the time to try something different?
We've had 4 great years, as Salties, and I was like, what's next after 4 good? It could be 4 bad years, I'm like, so I'm a little concerned about the economy going forward, and I'm 66 now, and I'm seeing friends of mine like Ray Harris. He just retired. Other friends, Jim Clemens, another good friend of mine, he just retired. So I think when you get to be 65, the feeling is there. Hey, the time's come. You know what I mean? You just tell your body. I'm healthy and everything. I'm not having any problems, but I guess it's your mind says, okay, I think it's time. You know what I mean?
Have you prepared? Because I did this in a family business. I sold my share in '08. Joe, I couldn't ride by the building for 6 months. I mean, it was a part of my life. It was my identity. It was my worth. It was everything that I believed in.
Yeah.
You'll experience that exact same thing. Have you worked that out internally, introspectively?
Well, I have a couple of people interested in the business now. Everybody's told me I've done this wrong. Okay, I probably have, because everybody's always telling me I'm doing everything wrong, which is fine. But I said, how should I do this? I like for somebody to keep Salties going. And so what I did is, you saw the Facebook post, and people said you should have went ahead and listed it with a real estate commercial broker.
Okay, why didn't you?
Because
I'm not saying you should have or should not have, because you're kind of a guy that does things unconventionally. You've admitted that.
Yeah.
So why did you decide to do it that way?
Because I want to, I know it'll take a special person to make this work. It's not going to be somebody who just thinks they can come in and do a clothing store. It's just not that. You got to know the product, man. You got to be a product person. Otherwise, you're not going to make it, man. Because you're competing. You got Palmetto Moon, Palmetto Outpost, Natural Outdoors, Schofields, a couple more here and there. And so if you don't have that product mix to compete with these guys, it's over, man. So I want to talk personally to the person that's interested, because last thing I would want to do is somebody come in and do that and fail. I want somebody does take over Salties, I want them to be successful.
So you're basically saying, I don't put words in your mouth, but I'm hearing you kind of want to handpick the person that you think has what it takes to make it work another 40 years.
Exactly.
And you're not sure a real estate sale would define that?
Well, no, I don't want to sell the real estate.
Okay, you talk, but it's still a business transaction.
A business transaction, yeah.
You want to handpick somebody that you believe has it in them to make it work.
I'm talking to several people right now, and I'm listening to some people, but it's a tough business, man. You can ask any of these people that's running it right now, and it's about the product, man. Got nothing to do with you personally. If you ain't got the product, you can hang it up immediately. So you got to have that product.
The day you make the deal, and Joe Waters is no longer the proprietor at Salters. You're talking about owning the building, have some lease, and that's typical in some of these succession plans. But what do you want to wake up that morning and do? The morning that you no longer run Salties, what do you want to do?
Well, it'll be it's gonna be more of the same. Okay, all we're gonna do is bounce around. My life will basically stay.
What does bounce around mean, Joe?
Bounce around. We got a condo at Carolina Beach, so we will live here at our house because we love our house. It's right there on Beaver Dam, next to the swamp. I can wake up, I can look back there. It's a swamp back there, which is cool. I like to play tennis, and I got some tennis friends here. And then we got the beach at Carolina Beach. I want to go up there and kind of bounce between those two. And my daughters live in California. Now, this is a great story. So my wife rides motorcycles. She wants to get on a motorcycle and ride to California. So I'm going to we got a little small RV, put the dogs in there, and I got to get a new car. Mike Rickenbach, I need a new car.
You don't trust yours to go cross country. I know the feeling. I don't trust mine to go cross country.
I bought it from Mike. God, 2012, 2013. It's got 250,000 miles on it, and it's on its last leg. So, so I got to get a new car before we do this. And so we'll go see the girls out in California. Stay there until they get tired of us and send us back. But
I don't. Last question, and I don't want you to pat yourself on your back. But how proud are you that for the last 40 some odd years, Salties, a surf shop in damn Florence that I said will close down in 6 months and somebody be selling barbecue out of there. But how proud are you that for 40 years you've been part of the business fabric of this community?
I'm very proud to pull this off because at one time now I had 3 shops. I don't know if you noticed. I had one in Ocean Isle, one in Florence, one in Columbia. And then we opened Blades, the hockey store, Blades. I don't know, do you remember that?
I do.
Okay, that's my wife.
I thought that was crazier than Salty's.
Yeah, Blades. Yeah, it was wild. And she was pregnant at the time with my son. And I think she had him while she had the shot, and she would take him up there with her. But, I mean, that was a wild time. And we ran into some problems right there we had some shenanigans going on when the cat's away, the mice will play type thing, and there's a couple close calls there to barely. So I'm proud to be able to hang on and make it through all those hard circumstances to where I am right now.
And leave under your terms.
Yeah.
And that's quite, I mean, I tip my hat to you.
Yeah.
And I mean that sincerely. I said at the beginning, I'll say it now. Mm-hmm. You and I have a lot of mutual friends. Mm-hmm. I mean, we don't go on vacation together. We don't drink beer together. Yeah. But if I buy flip-flops, I buy it from Salty's, and my daughter buys about 6 pair every 1 pair, that I get from Salty's. But I'm happy for you, and I think Florence is happy for you. We just hope, and I mean this sincerely in a selfish way, we hope you find the right person.
Well, thank you.
And Salty's is here for another 40-some-odd years.
I appreciate it. I got one question for you.
Yes, sir.
Can we get Breeze and Jeff to call in?
You hear that, Breeze and Jeff? The man's taking on comers. There you go. Maybe Breeze and Jeff could form a partnership and buy Salty's.
There you go.
Fair enough. Thank you, Joe.
All right. Thank you.